Test. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'll try talking louder. Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the October 9th, 2018 special meeting of the NID Irrigation District. This time, I would like to turn the meeting over to facilitator Andy McClure.
Good evening, everybody. I'm council to the district. After that, district staff will have an opportunity to respond to the presentation if the board so desires. After that, we'll have an opportunity for public comment. During public comment, we will not have a 3-minute time limit, but out of respect to hear as many voices as possible, please refrain from repeating comments that have already been made. Please also direct your comments to the board of directors. With that, I'll turn the floor over to Melinda Booth.
Good evening. Let's do a sound check. Can you hear me in the back? Thank you. Good evening, President Morbach and Nevada Irrigation District Board. Thank you for having Circle here tonight. My name is Melinda Booth, and I'm the Executive Director at the South Yuba River Citizens League, affectionately referred to as Circle. I'm here with a very simple message. Stop working on and promoting Centennial Dam while we work together to develop an objective raw water master plan so that our community knows what our future water needs really are and how this affects our watershed. As many of you in this room know, Circle came out against the proposed Centennial Dam project in April of 2016, after more than a year of learning about the project. The South Yuba River Citizens League is the leading voice for the protection and restoration of the Yuba River and the greater Yuba River watershed. Excuse us one moment while we get our slide advancer working. Technical difficulty. Today, Circle is a vibrant community nonprofit organization with more than 3,500 members and volunteers and 3,000 dam watchdogs. We continue to be recognized as the primary advocate for the Yuba River watershed. The services NID has brought to our community over the past 100 years are invaluable. Their staff and crew keep our water flowing through thick and thin summer fires and winter storms. Circle and NID have positive working relationships over the years, successfully partnering on activities such as the Yuba River cleanup. We look forward to working together on positive solutions for our community and for our watershed. Next slide. Because we are joined tonight by many interested public, I want to very briefly summarize the proposed Centennial Dam project to provide some context for this discussion and the proposed resolution. A 275-foot tall dam, about the same height as the existing Englebright Dam, is proposed on the Bear River between two existing dams and reservoirs, Rollins and Combe. are hydrologically linked rivers. Today, more than half of the water from the headwaters of the middle and the south fork of the Yuba River is already diverted to the Bear River. As Gary Snyder once said, the Bear River is really the fourth fork of the Yuba, thus our involvement. Next slide. This project concerns us for a variety of reasons. First, the project would drown the last 6 miles of free-flowing Bear River. It would destroy 2,200 acres of oak woodland habitat, and it would impact several threatened and several species of special concern. Next slide. It would drown irreplaceable Native American cultural sites that are still used today. Next slide. Our community concern is that it would swallow nearly 3 dozen family homes. Next slide. And then there's cost and funding. When the Nevada Irrigation District first announced the Centennial Project in 2014, we were told that it would cost approximately $160 million. Now NID's project website says $260 million. Their recent application to the California Water Commission cites $324 million. However, NID's application was corrected by the California Water Commission to a number closer to $491 million in hard costs. Another third-party economist estimated that the price would increase to more than $1 billion when you include financing costs. But the reality is, regardless of the exact number, is that the cost is unknown, as this trajectory shows, but it is a big number that is only increasing as the project develops. There is no known funding plan for the dam. In fact, last year, Nevada Irrigation District applied for funding through Proposition 1's Water Storage Investment Program and was denied funding, receiving a public benefit score of 0 just this past March. As you can see, we have a variety of concerns about this proposed project: environmental, cultural, community-based, lack of public trust, and fiscal responsibility. To date, NID has spent $14 million on this project, a project that hasn't been approved, for which there is no funding plan, no water rights to fill the reservoir, and no analysis justifying the need. Just this year alone, NID has spent $1.7 million on Centennial Dam. Next slide. So in April, Nevada Irrigation District announced that it would prioritize a new raw water master plan that would engage the community in a public process. Circle was cautiously optimistic. The raw water master plan projects future water supply and demand conditions, and it develops alternatives to meet those needs. An accurate and unbiased raw water master plan should inform difficult decisions about water for our community. In NID's own words, the raw water master plan will identify a vision and develop alternatives to meet our community's water needs for the next 50 years. Those alternatives will then be presented to the board of directors to discuss and select. We're thrilled to see Nevada Irrigation District prioritize a more rigorous understanding of local hydrology and our community's water needs, and how our responses to them are likely to evolve in an uncertain future. Essentially, we support a decision to prioritize the raw water master plan and to put the proverbial cart back behind the horse where we think it belongs. Next slide. More than 80% of NID's water is raw water. That's untreated water that's generally used for landscaping and agricultural purposes, both personal and commercial. It's that water that we see in the ditches flowing around the county that many of us enjoy walking along. Knowing how much water is actually needed, and knowing how much water is actually being used, and how that will change over time is an essential piece of the puzzle. And assessing that supply side is no less important. As we enter the 2020s, it's time for NID to fully adopt 21st century resource management practices and finally leave the 19th century behind. We need to measure what we have. We need to analyze what is needed. We need to manage the resource for the delivery, We need to manage the resource for the greatest benefit and the lowest cost. NID must embrace new technologies for water for determining how various factors, for example, climate change, population growth, will affect our water future. Next slide. But our support for this raw water master plan is not without some concern. Because of acting prematurely on Centennial Dam over the past few years, NID must now regain the public's trust. If NID wants the raw water master plan to be embraced by the public, a predetermined solution must be avoided. Further activity on Centennial Dam will be seen as bias. In the 4 months between Circle's first request letter and this agenda resolution request, NID's lack of response, continued property acquisition, release of the Centennial Dam project audits, and 2 inundation zone demolitions have damaged the process before it's even begun. We're concerned that the raw water master plan is a veiled attempt to justify the dam. Real or not, this perception damages public trust. The public needs to know that NID's raw water master plan was created using the most up-to-date climate science, realistic demand and growth projections, conservation initiatives, state regulatory requirements, and objective data analysis. Got it myself there, that's okay. Continued spending on the dam project while updating the raw water master plan equates to furthering a predetermined solution, Centennial Dam. We're asking NID to address this perception by formally voting to suspend work on Centennial in respect of an open and objective raw water master plan process. The biggest risk we can see is NID making uninformed decisions that will damage this watershed forever. Thus our request tonight. Our resolution states, and here I will read, the board hereby directs staff to cease, to the extent legally possible, all actions, expenditures, analysis, promotion, further information dissemination, or discussion in the furtherance of Centennial Water Storage Project or any other water storage project involving the Bear River until the raw water master plan, authorized on April 25th, 2018, under Resolution 2018-09, is complete and accepted by vote of the board. Now, that's a little jargon, even for me. So what our resolution asks for, to break it down just a little bit, is to stop spending ratepayer and taxpayer money on a project for which the need has not been justified nor approved. We'd like instead to see focus on an unbiased raw water master plan process and outcome that includes all alternatives. We'd like the board to deliberate and vote on what is arguably one of the largest and likely most costly public works projects in Nevada County. What our resolution is not saying is that we don't want NID to give up any water rights, and we're not here tonight to debate NID's resolution 2014-43. On behalf of our 3,500 active members and volunteers, many of whom are here with us tonight, we're asking NID to stop work on Centennial Dam while working on the raw water master plan. We have included the phrase, to the extent legally possible, because we realize that work has been moving forward and that some current contracts take time to stop. We want to acknowledge those obligations. Our August 27th letter simply says, let's work together on an objective needs assessment and the raw water master plan. Not stopping work on Centennial Dam biases and taints the raw water master plan process, potentially wasting time and money. Next slide. As is well known, Nevada Irrigation District is constantly challenged with the cost of maintaining aging infrastructure. This vulnerability directly affects you and me because it threatens a secure water supply and it poses a significant safety concern. NID reports indicate that their reserves are being depleted. They just finished a 5-year phased rate increase. They're considering another larger rate increase over the next 5 years right now, up to 10% per year it seems. Spending money prematurely on Centennial Dam continues to jeopardize NID's fiscal health. Yet the costs to both the Centennial Dam project and now the Raw Water Master Plan keep increasing. In 2018 alone, NID agreed to authorize $500,000 to kick off the Raw Water Master Plan, but came back just months later asking for additional funds, bringing their total to nearly $1.2 million. While we are in favor of the Raw Water Master Plan, we have concerns that the cost will keep increasing, as we've seen with the Centennial Dam project. Next slide. Water is a hot topic in California, frankly, worldwide. We're fortunate to live in a water-rich region in a state where water scarcity is a real issue. Currently, California is considering major changes in water regulations that address statewide water quality and water supply concerns. These regulatory changes may require increased flows from our watershed and additional water conservation. They include, but are not limited to, the Bay Delta Water Quality Plan Phase 2, the California Water Fix Infrastructure Project, FERC relicensing efforts, that's Federal Energy Regulatory Commission relicensing efforts, and 2 new water conservation bills that were passed just this May, Senate Bill 606 and Assembly Bill 1668. Circle is concerned that once again, NID may be putting the cart before the horse by moving forward with a major water infrastructure project that does not consider the impact of these regulatory changes. Fortunately, the Raw Water Master Plan provides an opportunity to take into account all of these changes and would provide the district needed flexibility. Next slide, please. Now, I want to chat just a little bit about water rights in relation to this resolution because I feel they're intertwined in all aspects of the proposed Centennial Dam and the Raw Water Master Plan. In order to move forward with constructing the proposed Centennial Dam, Nevada Irrigation District must acquire water rights that it does not currently have in order to fill the reservoir the dam would create. Those rights are currently held by the state of California and reserved for our future use. NID applied for those rights in 2014. As a member of the Foothills Water Network, Circle formally protested the NID's water rights application, along with many other agencies. We protested because those water rights could only be used to fill Centennial Dam's reservoir, actually. So don't confuse our protest to the Centennial Dam water rights application with an objection to NID obtaining additional needed water rights. The nuance is in the proposed use of the water. We support water for our community when we need it. And as was established at the NID water rights presentation just last month, county of origin laws provide Nevada Irrigation District priority use of those rights. Be assured that Circle is in favor of a secure water future for our community and for our watershed, especially our prized local agriculture. Next slide. Although we oppose NID's application for water rights for the Centennial Dam project, this is not what Circle's resolution is about. Focusing solely on the Raw Water Master Plan will not endanger Nevada Irrigation District's application. There is no reason to believe that the Raw Water Master Plan work is not enough diligence for the State Water Resources Control Board. No additional work on Centennial Dam is needed. NID is not in danger of losing rights to water that are necessary for our community. The Water Board is generous to applicants with regards to project timelines. In fact, they let the Auburn Dam water rights application sit pending for close to 40 years, little diligence shown. Next slide. I want to really briefly address the next agenda item that we're going to be hearing from NID on, which is their Resolution 2014-43. We're not completely sure why NID has linked this resolution to ours, but we really look forward to hearing from them on this matter shortly. I want to emphasize that Circle very intentionally phrased the resolution language that we were asked to provide in our request to allow the district to stop working on Centennial where legally possible. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, NID's Raw Water Master Plan, as defined by NID, will identify a vision, develop alternatives to meet our community's water needs for the next 50 years. However, there is no current data to substantiate a need for increased water storage. For example, NID currently knows how much water it allocates to its customers, but it has no way to measure how much water is actually used. We're not the only ones who see this as a need. In fact, the state has now mandated this reporting in recent legislation passed just this year. A detailed water audit needs to be conducted to determine how much and how water is being used. Next slide. Most important is to understand how our watershed may change based on various climate and water management scenarios. The Raw Water Master Plan can provide our community with the information we need to make tough decisions if it is complete and if it is objective. We'd like the Raw Water Master Plan to include a comprehensive hydrologic, landscape, and climate model that is specific to our watershed. Next slide. Also, a cost-to-benefit analysis of all strategies and alternatives should be performed, and potential strategies should include, but not be limited to, sediment removal, conservation, upper watershed enhancement, rainwater catchment, forest thinning, conjunctive groundwater projects, and yes, on-stream surface storage like Centennial Dam. This cannot be accomplished without an audit of NID's current delivery systems and practices. Next slide. Circle values our rural community that is reliant on agriculture for food, for open space, and wildlife habitat. We want to keep our water local and affordable for farmers. Circle believes local ag is on the leading edge of state initiatives for ecosystem services on agricultural lands. For example, one of our local farmers provides critical habitat for native predatory bird species while producing crops too. They're able to balance water efficiency while providing beneficial ecosystem services. Circle is concerned that our local agriculture won't be able to compete with the highest bidders in California when the bill for Centennial Dam comes due. To lose access to locally grown food would devastate our way of life. Let's talk a little bit about climate change. It's here. We don't know exactly what it's going to bring. We're grateful that NID has acknowledged climate change and wants to take it into consideration in regards to water needs. What we do know is that it will produce unpredictable weather patterns year over year. Not only did we just experience the longest drought on record, but it was followed by the second wettest year on record. By definition, those are both rare events, but here they are, back to back, showing that only one thing is for certain about California's future, and that is uncertainty around climate change and hydrology. Current scientific models indicate that our winters will be warmer, with more extreme weather events and severe storms. In fact, California's recently released fourth assessment on climate change has more specific predictions about how climate change will affect our community. The report emphasizes that climate change is already here, affecting heat and precipitation extremes, with long-term warming trends, declining snowpacks, and changes in stream flow timing that warn of much larger changes to come. Additionally, the state's report notes that new surface water storage in new or expanded reservoirs are frequently discussed as adaptation options, but remain a source of friction between water purveyors and flood managers, and local resource and conservation communities. Conjunctive use and other groundwater options are an important consideration in those discussions of new storage options. Other notable climate change impacts that should be considered in the Raw Water Master Plan include and larger storms, and the devastating impacts of more severe wildfires and their effect on erosion, sedimentation, and hydrology. As large areas in the Sierra Nevada burn, all of these risks will grow. This new wealth of data show that despite NID's recognition of climate change, it's not as simple as just building another dam. Dams and reservoirs contribute to climate change. As additionally noted in California's fourth assessment, surface water storage options are structurally vulnerable. The trend these days is to remove, not build, dams. And in fact, they should be the last option considered not preferred. During NID's Water Rights Workshop last month, NID speaker asserted that because of climate change, water districts need to look at all available options to diversify and to protect secure and sustainable supplies. I hope we can all agree on that point at least. Next slide. We acknowledge NID's long history in our community providing water and bettering our way of life. NID is a supporter of Circle and many other nonprofit organizations in our community, and for that we are grateful. We have always and continue to offer to work together with Nevada Irrigation District and others on finding long-term solutions that draw on more sustainable, flexible approaches. With climate change, we must face the facts. Business as usual is not going to cut it in what remains of the 21st century. It's going to take innovation, cooperation, and multifaceted solutions to create a resilient water future for our community. The reality is that we as humans have had an enormous impact on our planet. Luckily, reversing some of the negative impacts is still within reach. But we must get real about change in many aspects of our lives, and wise water use is at the top of the list. We all know change can be hard. This is going to be hard. One of the things I value greatly about our community is the desire for the collective good over the benefit of one, regardless of how hard one must work to find a solution. Uncertainty can be addressed with flexibility, and flexibility can be created by ongoing dialogue about changing conditions, needs, opportunities, and thoughtful action. Sustainable water for our community and watershed is at the top of Circle's list of issues on which to work. We look forward to participating in an open and unbiased raw water master plan process and reinforce our request for the NID board to vote to stop working on and promoting the proposed Centennial Dam project while focused on the raw water master plan. Thank you.
The board have